Namaste and welcome. My name's Keith. When I spoke to you the last time, we spoke a little bit about the importance of foundation and the ground underneath us. And that ground underneath us, that sense of stability, is rooted in the yama and the niyama. And the yama and the niyama come directly out of the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, the very foundation of the practices of yoga that we call Raja Yoga. And yama and niyama can be described as guidelines or ways to keep up the harmony, social harmony with the yama and internal harmony with the niyama. So keeping the peace with the outer world, creating peace with the inner world. That's one way to think about the yama and the niyama. And those come right out of the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. And in the Yoga Sutra, one of my favorite sutras says, Vitarka Badane Pratipaksha Bhavanam. And that means that when something runs against what we know to be part of our practice, part of our ascension to our higher selves, that we need to do the opposite. And the way that Mr. Iyengar, in his translation of the Yoga Sutra, he translates that as principles which run contrary to the yama and the niyama are to be countered with the knowledge of discrimination. So when something counters the yama and the niyama, something counters this harmony of creating a sense of harmony with the outside, or when there's a peace being created with the inside, when anything goes afoul of that, that we should counter that with discrimination or what we know to be true. So do the opposite. Counter it with what we know is actually true. And I think that becomes really important when it comes to negativity and negative thought, right? When negativity appears, it doesn't appear in the foreground right away. It often appears in the distance. It shows up as a quiet thought, the beginning of a thought. And then as it approaches, if we haven't countered it, then it turns into something much bigger. It can turn into negative word, it can turn into negative action. But it all begins with negative thought. And negative thought needs to be countered with the opposite. And this isn't to say that we should just replace everything that is negative or challenging or maybe even dark with some rose-colored version of things, that we should put a happy face on when there's a negative thought or a negative emotion or what I'll call a negative vibration happening. But we need to see it before it gets there, label it for what it is, counter it with the opposite. Go back to the truth. Go back to the yama. Go back to the niyama. Go back to the foundation of ourselves and the foundation of the practice in order to sidestep, even if only temporarily, this particular negative energy. To move away from it by doing the opposite, by going back to truth. Because negative energy, negative vibration is always going to be coming out of fear. And so if we counter fear with the opposite, truth, then we don't have any problems. If we can see fear as living in the past, as something historical, something that's not in the present moment, then we know that if we come back to the present moment, then everything will be okay. If we see fear as false evidence in this moment, then we can go to, well, what is real? What is true? What is unchanging in this moment? And if we do that, that negative vibration can be squelched. In the stories, because I do love the stories, the destroyer of negative energy is Kali. And Kali is often seen as dark and fierce and quite frightening, actually. And she is known as the destroyer of negative thought and negative energy. And in Kali's origin, the origin story of Kali, she is born out of a moment of need when a great demon who's called Rakta Bija is waging a great offensive on all that is true, all that is real, all that is rooted in the yama and the niyama, and all that is guarded by the gods and the goddesses. So when Raktabija, whose name means blood seed, is waging this offensive and is completely unstoppable, so it seems, all the gods and goddesses come together and they pool together their Shakti, or their primal vibratory beginning energy of all things. They pool that together. And in putting that all together, a new being is formed, a new being comes to life. And that being is called Kali. And she is bare chested, and she is dark skinned, and her hair is matted. Around her neck, she wears a necklace of skulls. Around her waist, she wears a skirt made out of arms and limbs. And she has a tongue that she unfurls, that hangs out as she holds in one hand a scythe above her, ready for battle. And the problem with Raktabija up until this point has been every time that he is attacked, every time that he bleeds, every drop of his blood that hits the ground is a seed, and another warrior springs up out of that. So he cannot be stopped because his army continues to grow. So when Kali appears, her first offensive action is to go after this army that has come out of his blood seed. And so she opens her mouth wide and she unfurls her tongue and she gobbles them up. And they're gone. And so then she goes into battle with Raktabija. And with every slice of her side, with every jab in this battle, every drop of blood that spills from Raktabija before it can hit the ground, she unfurls her tongue and it hits her tongue rather than the ground, and she laps up the blood. And this continues until finally she delivers the blow that ends blood seed, that ends Raktabija, and she chops off his head. And in doing so, all the blood that would hit the ground goes right into her mouth. She drinks all of it, and she consumes all of this negative, vibratory, negative energy. She drinks it right up. And in that moment, Raktabija is done. Now, of course, Kali is also still in this mode of war. And she is dancing her dance of victory. And it seems as though she is going to dance and destroy the very world that we need for life. And it's in that moment that Lord Shiva goes to the battlefield, and he lays down on the battlefield, and he takes the form of a young child, of a small baby. And as Kali is dancing her dance of destruction, dancing all over the battlefield, she comes to this child, and just before she steps on this child, she sees it, and her demeanor changes. And instead of being in fight mode, instead of being in war mode, she goes into nurture mode. And this is important because when we wage our own war against negative thought, against negative energy, when we want to counter everything that runs afoul of this foundation of yama and niyama, we also have to be careful not to go too far in the other direction, to be in constant countering mode, so that we have a sense of balance, that we see the negative energy coming, we do what's needed to shut it down, to move away, to sidestep, and then when that's done, we go back to our place of the middle, that we're no longer simply in fear, and we're not in this act and destroy mode, to find the middle. And that's where we can be. Take your hands and lay them so they are one on top of the other, palms up, right? And that can rest right in your lap. And when you do that, sometimes that's called Buddha Mudra, but it's also called Bhairava Mudra. And Bhairava is fierce. And when you lay that in your lap, let your breath go down around your belly, because around your belly is the place of fire in the body. So enjoy breathing into that place of fire, and know that you can harness that fire to dispel negative energy. And then as you sit and listen, I'll share a mantra with you for this energy of Kali, or these many qualities of Kali. And it's a long one, so I'll put the words down in the description of this particular video so that you can look at it later. But it starts with Kali Maheshwari. This quality of Kali, or the dark one, the destroyer, Maheshwari, this great highest form of the divine Ma. She's called Parvati, the other half, the beloved of Shiva. Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari. Shanka, or the shank, is the shell that you can blow into to make sound. Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. And Sharanam, you might remember, is a refuge or a safe space. Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari, Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari, Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. 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 Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari, Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari, Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Durgati Nashini Durga Jai Jai, Kala Vinashini Kali Jai Jai. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. 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 Ramaa Brahmani Jai Jai, Ramaa Sarvani Jai Jai. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Radha, Sita, Rukmani Jai Jai. Radha, Sita, Rukmani Jai Jai. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. Kali Maheshwari, Parvati, Shankari. Sharanam, Sharanam, Sharanam Ma. 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 Thanks for tuning in. Embrace the foundation. Come back to the roots of the yama and the niyama. When anything wants to take you away from those roots, from that truth, from that harmony, from that peace, counter it. counter it with the opposite action. If you're not sure the opposite action is, always think about that moment when Kali is about to step on the small child on the battlefield, and come back to that moment and nurture and act from love. Namaste.